The iPhone 16 Pro is here, and for the second year in a row, we get a new button on the iPhone. This one's called Camera Control, and it's got a lot of stuff baked into it. You can change camera settings with a swipe, you can open different versions of the camera app with it, you can control depth and tone mapping, you can take pictures, and so on and so forth. Being called Camera Control, Apple has deliberately avoided calling it a button, even though it functions just like a button. By default, if your phone is locked, you'd press once on the camera control area to wake it up, and then you'd press it again to open the camera app. If your phone's already on, you just need to press it once. You can actually change what version of the camera app opens by default with the camera button. You can choose between the camera, QR code scanner, magnifier, or you can choose to open no app with the button. The whole operation of this new button thing actually takes a little bit to get used to. If you press the button hard, you'll get a satisfying click, and the phone will either take a picture or start recording video as you would expect. But if you press the button softly or like halfway down, you get a different function depending on what you choose in the camera control menu. I've got mine to switch between the cameras. If I soft press and then swipe up or down, it lets me choose between 3 different cameras on the back of the phone plus the 2x, which is just like a digital crop of the main camera. If you press the button halfway twice in quick succession, you can actually get a full settings menu that you can navigate through by swiping forward or backward on the button. This is the gesture that for sure takes some getting used to. It can be a little bit difficult to figure out exactly how much pressure you need to put on that button to get that secondary menu to pop up. But once you've got it, it's not too bad. From top to bottom, we've got exposure, depth, zoom, cameras, styles, and tone. Let's go back up and start with exposure. Once we're in this menu, you just gotta soft press on the menu item to select it. This is your exposure compensation slider. Sliding it up will increase the exposure in your shot. So if you find out your pictures are coming out a little bit dark, this can be a way to brighten your scene pretty quickly. And of course, vice versa when you slide down. The second setting in this menu is depth. This will control exactly how much blur you wanna add to the background of your photos. It's like having portrait mode permanently on, even though we're still in the photo tab of the camera app instead of being in portrait mode. A lower aperture means more blur, and a higher aperture means less blur. Of course, there's not a real aperture in these cameras that you're changing, it's just a simulated blur based on the aperture value that you select. Going back to the menu, this next one is zoom. This one's a lot like the camera setting that I usually pick, except it allows you to digitally zoom between the cameras instead of just choosing one of the cameras without a digital crop. I'm not a fan of zooming when I'm taking photos or recording videos because I don't like the loss in image or video quality that comes from doing that, but hey, it's here if you want it. We've gone over the cameras option already, so we're gonna skip that and move down to styles. This one's interesting. It allows you to change up your photographic styles on the fly. It's sort of like a filter, but Apple has full control over the image processing pipeline, so it's a lot more high quality than just a simple filter. There's a full range of styles here, from different tone maps and color passes to black and white filters that mimic photography. If you wanna see what each of these styles are doing and adjust them more finely, you can click on this button up here and scroll through the options. By dragging this trackpad around, you can fine-tune the style exactly how you want it. Back to camera control, at the bottom of this list, we have tone. This is the one I expect people to be the most confused about. This will actually allow you to control how much of that HDR look you want in your photo. It's a full tone mapping control slider. Up to get rid of pretty much every shadow in existence, and down to crush the dark portions of your photos into black holes devoid of detail. This is actually really handy. I find that the iPhone in particular likes to make things just way too bright sometimes with no shadows at all, and having fine control over how much shadows you want in your photo is kind of cool. But what happens when you switch out of the photo tab and into something like video? Well, camera control works the same way, except you do lose some options depending on what mode you're in. For example, in video mode, you lose access to the depth, styles, and tone options. In cinematic mode, you gain access to that depth slider back, but there's still no options for styles or tone. In the slow-mo tab, you lose everything except for exposure compensation. Something you may notice here is that when you activate the menu with the camera control, all of the other settings on the screen disappear. You can tap on the screen to get them back, but if you don't like that at all, you can actually turn off clean preview in the camera control settings. That'll keep all of the UI on the camera app on even when the camera control button is active. So what do I actually think of the camera control button? It's interesting. To be honest, I don't see myself using it that often. It's great to have a dedicated button for launching the camera, but I find that when I want to take a picture, I gotta press a little too hard on that button and it kind of shakes the camera a little and ruins the shot sometimes. Tapping on the phone screen is a lot lighter, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it kind of just feels more natural to use at this point. Fun fact though, you can actually change the amount of pressure required to do each action with camera control via the accessibility settings. So if you find that you're messing up the amount of pressure that you're supposed to apply to get that second menu to pop up, try out some different settings there. And if you really hate the camera control button, you can turn it off entirely here in the accessibility settings too. Will camera control come in handy from time to time? Sure, but would I be missing it much if I had an iPhone 15 Pro instead? Nah, not really. But that's my next video, iPhone 15 Pro versus the new iPhone 16 Pro. I'll go over all the differences between the two and if you should consider upgrading in that video, so consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hope you liked the video, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.